This film, it's very realistic, and it plays on this undercurrent of fear that I think terrorism has brought to our world. How do you feel these real life concerns play a part in fueling a great action drama movie?
Well, especially with something like Jack Ryan, I think being current and apropos to what's happening in the world makes an action thriller, especially something in the spy genre, that much more electric. And it's why we loved watching him during the Cold War with heightened tensions between Russia. It brought out all of our latent or conscious fears about that relationship. And I think nowadays it's even more interesting because the demarcation between good and bad and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy is much more blurred, much more amoebic. And in an interconnected world where someone can press a button across the world and change and destroy lives, you want a man who is intelligent enough to kind of weave through a lot of dead ends and a lot of information in order to find a man who's not ruled by ideology, a man that's not ruled by allegiance to one flag or one way of thinking. He's a man that knows right and wrong, and when he sees wrong, feels compelled to fix it.
And because I'm with ArcLight Cinemas, I have to ask, what do you love most about going to the movies?
It's that moment when the lights go down and you're in a shared social space with a bunch of other people, and maybe some people are talking too loudly and that bugs you, but you got your bowl of popcorn and it's communal, it's social. And you can't get that at home, even with Netflix and iTunes and all that, which I use. But it will always be a different experience. And it's like good theater. It's like when you're in a room with a bunch of people and you're engaged with something, you can hear a pin drop because it's got your attention that closely. That's a pretty special thing.
It is so rare that someone is both an exceptional actor and director, and I've got to imagine that when projects come across your desk, it may be hard to determine, is this something that I want to direct or act in, or in the case of Jack Ryan, something where you did both? How do you decide?
Well, in this case, directing was what was on the table, and I was really happy to read the script, feel very, very passionately about it. It was a page turner for me. I immediately felt what I wanted the audience to feel, which was Jack's vulnerability, getting caught up in this sort of relentlessly frantic pace and in this attempt to solve this extraordinary potential crime, as it were. And I worked with Chris Pine, who I thought was marvelous casting for Jack Ryan. We managed to cast Kevin Costner and then Keira Knightley, and there was one part left. And by this stage, I thought, that's a great part. I'd love to act with Chris and with Keira. Maybe I would have maybe I can plan it so that I can do that, And I also really was attracted to the idea of playing someone so quiet and dangerous. He never raises his voice. I wanted to, in every case, I wanted to get away from action, movie, thriller cliches, make it as specific and particular as possible. And I was arrogant enough or stupid enough to think I'd like to try and do it with that particular character myself and try and keep up with these other great actors.
You had an exceptional cast, as you said, and there were actually two very accomplished directors on set, both you and Kevin.
Yeah.
When you're working with an actor that also has a background in directing, is there ever any collaboration when working with them directly on their scenes?
Do you know that 25 years ago, I came to Hollywood and almost the first person I met was Kevin Costner, who rang me to say, can we talk together? I know you've just acted and directed a movie and I'm about to do the same thing. I said, what are you going to call it? He said, Dances with Wolves. I said, okay, yeah, sounds interesting. And we talked. We had a long boozy lunch, and I felt it was really a special moment for me. I've kept up with him over the years, and it was great to hook up with him again. I trust him completely in his judgment, and he was everything and more that I expected and hoped for as an actor. And he brings this sort of legendary, charismatic movie status. There's him being specific as William Harper in the part, but there's him, Kevin Costner, the movie star, that just brings an extra dimension. He's very American. He carries weight and gravity, and when he expresses worry and concern for the country, you kind of feel it on his behalf. And so the seriousness of the movie, in the sense of the credibility of the threat, the reality of the threat, is carried by him and carried by Chris in their performances, I think. And so I was very grateful to have the chance to work with him, and in a way thank him for all that inspiration all those years ago.
That's so neat. That's a really cool story.
Mm.
You know, in an age where film is consumed in so many different ways, whether it's on someone's mobile device or in home theater, how important is it to you that an action film of this caliber is seen in a theater with an audience?
It's a very interesting point to make. Very important, because, you know, the care and concern over the soundtrack, angles, immersion in the pace, the visual style of the film, which is absolutely designed to make the audience have a visceral connection with Jack, a character with whom I think they can sympathize. He is closer to them than most heroes in an action film. I think the immersive experience of being in a movie theater and being surrounded by all of that does make a big difference. And also watching this kind of film, which is a bit of a nerve jangler once Jack is on his own, you know, it makes me sweaty when I watch it, and I know it very well now, is one where when you feel that group experience of the same thing is an additional piece of fun. You know, because people gasp at the same time, or they laugh at the same time, and they enjoy being caught out, having been caught out being scared or whatever. So that communal experience, I think, is particularly nice for a movie like this.
And real quick last question, because I'm from ArcLight Cinemas, so I have to ask, what do you love most about going to the movies?
I like ArcLight Cinemas for sure. I have a really good experience, and I really like the staff there, because they come out and they give you the little speech beforehand, and it's very nice. And you can go and say if something's wrong. Nothing ever is, of course. I like the ritual of it. I like to get there very early. I like to see all the previews, all the trailers. I like to have a big box of popcorn. I like to have a soft drink. I like to have a little tub of ice cream as well. It's really a lovely thing to do. I like to go in the late afternoon, and then I like to go and have supper afterwards. Fantastic.